Welcome to the Military Retirement Podcast, wherever you may be watching the stream on Facebook, on YouTube, or even on the Green Logbooks YouTube channel. Unfortunately, we don't have John here with us today. He's out doing some good things, but you've got me, so that's all right. I am going to be bringing up Chief Warrant Officer retired Rich Neer, and he's our guest for today. And here, actually, let me bring him up to the stage really quick. Rich, it's good to have you.
Yeah,
Good to see
thanks
you.
for thanks for having me, man.
Hey, absolutely, man. Hey, I'm digging the background, man. I know we talked a little bit about it a little bit before the going live, but man, I'm digging the background with the. Were you a combat instructor? Is that what I see that helmet back there?
Yeah, well, that's my pith cover from when I was actually a range coach a long time ago. I was like a corporal, it was a long time ago.
Gotcha.
I
Gotcha.
found that in one of my boxes, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Throw it
put
up
it up there, man. Why not?
there. Yeah,
I've been meaning to get one of those the cross swords, man, because same as you, both chief warrant officers retired,
yeah.
both were NCOs at one point, and both have the other sword. So, unfortunately for me, I have it tucked away in my little sword. What is it, little carrier?
Oh
And
yeah.
dude,
Gee, yeah.
around
Yeah.
Halloween time, you'll. So my kids got into it, and they're playing swords with it, and you know how expensive those things are. And I'm like, whoa, 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 put that stuff back.
Yeah.
Put it back in the garage, dude. Don't touch that. But yeah, it almost gave me a heart
That's
attack, man. Yeah,
yeah, I
man.
bet, man. That's crazy. That was one of the
Oh,
things that
dude.
everybody like when we went through the TBS or whatever. Everybody was like,
Yeah.
I gotta buy one of those. Like, really? Oh my goodness. You know?
Yeah, yeah. One of my roommates in TBS, he actually found one. It was used. I guess somebody was
Mhm.
selling it, and it didn't have a name on it, so he was able to inscribe the name on it. It was like half of whatever we paid for it. I was like, damn, I got to find a used one, but I just went ahead and paid full price
Yeah,
for it. Whatever,
yeah,
man. It's nice to have, right? Especially when it comes like to ball time and you get tapped for the actual Marine Corps ball, and you got
yeah.
to have that with you with the frog and all that stuff.
Yeah, I looked at it
So
as like kind of like a family heirloom. I'll be able to give it to my kids. My kids
yeah,
love that. So it's got my name in it and stuff. I did do that.
that's
And that
right.
way I can pass it down to my kids.
That's
That'd be pretty
that's
cool.
an excellent reason to get one, man. I have the exact same thing, and I was thinking about that as well. Pass it down to my kids. It'll have a story. They'll have a story to tell. Maybe one day down the line they'll have their own that they could put up on the wall. Provided
Yeah, I
that they
mean
do
everything
join.
that it's all about the story, right? Because
It is.
it's all a little piece of where you've been, what you've done. You don't see my other wall over here of all the plaques that the Marines had given me on this
Oh
side and this
man.
side over here, and it's just it's important, to
Hmm.
and it's really cool to look at it, but it's really cool to because it gives you kind of flashbacks, for lack of a better word, of what it was like during that time and the Marines that were with you. And like when I retired, I had 175 guys at my retirement. Man, it was a
Really.
ton of
Wow.
people. But the fact of the matter was, is every person that was in there, when I was able to recall every one of those units I was at,
Yeah.
I remembered every one of their names, right?
Mm.
And it was really cool to be able to recognize them. I mean, they made the trek out to see me from
Yeah.
across the country. Might as well go ahead and recognize them. But
Oh,
that's one of the
absolutely, man.
things, to honor what they did for me. Yeah.
You got to, man. You got to. And
That's right.
speaking of stories, man, I really want to get into yours, right? If you could just give me like a short intro. I know you sent me your bio and all that stuff,
Mm.
but if you could just all the viewers out there, all the people listening, tell us who you are, what you did in the Marine Corps during your time.
Sure. Yeah. So, no, I grew up from a really messed up background. I was homeless until I was about 12 years old.
Hmm,
In the woods, ate out trash cans, all kinds of stuff, man, like
really?
bad stuff. Yeah, I lived in cars, lived in tents, hotels. Dad was in prison. Mom was just in bad shape. Little brother and stuff. And then just kind of made my way through there. Jumped between North Carolina and Florida pretty much my whole life. Then 9/11 happened, and I joined the Marine Corps. Right. So Marine Corps really changed everything. Um, and because honestly, I started working since I was like 9 years old, like in the tobacco
Yeah,
fields and all kinds of stuff, right? So
really?
yeah, man, you do what you
Wow.
can.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so I ended up joining the Marine Corps because my roommate, when I was still in high school and stuff, the roommate I was with, his family was in the Twin Towers, and I came home from work, and he was just crumbled to the floor, man. And he I was trying to figure out why he was crying. He's some, real thick New York dude, just built like a brick house, and I was trying to
Hmm.
figure out why this dude was crumbled up on the floor crying with this on the TV, and his
Yeah.
family was in the Twin Towers, and I was like, what in the world? So
Wow.
yeah, 2 days later, I was in the recruiter's office, signing up to go in there, and I was like, I don't care, I just want to go in there and fight. You're immature, you don't know what you don't know what you don't know, and
That's right.
um, so I ended up going to the Marine Corps. I did my I came in as a comm guy, but I ended up really enjoying the infantry side of the house, and
Hmm.
I went to First Battalion, Third Marines. We did a UDP where you go over in the Pacific side, Asia.
Right.
So we did like Fuji and Oki and Philippines and Thailand and all that stuff, Cobra Gold and all that jazz. And then we did Phantom Fury. We were actually part of the BLT battalion landing team as First
Hmm.
Battalion Third Marines, and we went in for the Second Battle of Fallujah. We had over 50 guys pass away, and over 250 of us were wounded. I happened to be one of them, right?
Hmm.
And it was a nasty fight. Battle of Fallujah was. I mean, it kind of marked us all for a really long time. Matter of fact,
Yeah.
this past weekend at the National Marine Corps Museum,
Hmm.
or they had the 20th year anniversary for the Battle of Fallujah,
Yeah.
and they had unveiled the OIF and the OEF sector of the museum. But after that, I mean, I went and became a combat instructor. You're right. I
Hmm.
was a SOI instructor on the East Coast. I was their master instructor of weapons, master instructor of tactics.
Yeah.
I was a second degree black belt, so I helped stand up, build, and not just the dojo at SOI East, but the one over a few other ones, right? So
Hmm.
quite a few of them, and then I went to COB8, which is a combat logistics battalion, and I ended up going to Helmand Province a couple different times with those guys. And one of the times I was with an embedded training team where I was with the 5th Kandak, 5'2", 215 Kandak out of Delaram.
Yeah.
And so they had me I was their communications advisor, their hand-to-hand combatives guy, their tactics guy. I was their weapons guy. I was doing all of the route planning and all that stuff off of what used to be Blue Force trackers, now
Hmm.
JBCP, and yeah, all that jazz. Came back, went to school. I went to the schoolhouse McSess out in Twin Palms, California,
Mm.
and um, while I was there, I actually became their master instructor for comm. I actually was the master instructor for of the year for TCOM for 2012.
That's
I
awesome. Wow.
picked up Gunny. Yeah, it was pretty neat, man. I really love to teach. I really enjoy doing that stuff. And then I got selected for warrant officer. Went to school with you
That's
in
right.
2015. Yeah,
Yeah.
in Virginia in Quantico, and then after that went to school. Head down to 8th Comm Battalion. Was there as a cyber platoon commander, an operations officer, and then an interim company commander for a little while too. And then I slid up to 2MEF, then 2nd MEB, then 2nd Marine Division. Then I went to MAR 4 PAC out in Hawaii, Marine Forces
Hmm.
Pacific. That was kind of like my crown jewel as a chief warrant officer, actually, was over
Yeah.
there because I was building out a lot of the data centers for like Australia and Korea, Guam, and
Very
all that
cool.
stuff. Yeah, it was really neat. Then I came back because I told them I was ready to retire. They wanted to put me at McCog. And I said they deserve better than that, because I'm going to be getting out here pretty soon. And I ended up going to Marine Corps Installations East, helped out with their infrastructure, and then helped stand up 2nd Network Battalion. And then after that, man, like started doing my transition, and brother, like
Yeah.
So that's kind of me in a nutshell, and we can get into the transition stuff a little bit more if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we get into that, I'd like to figure out what made you believe that you were ready to retire.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. To be honest with you, my heart was not ready to retire. My
Hmm.
body was getting to that point, right? So
Yeah.
I had like about 4 tumors removed. I had hernia repair. I had my shoulder redone, um, and that my body was the one that was really telling me. And then the other thing is, my wife and I have been together since she was 14. I was 15. Woman's my best friend,
Yeah.
and I don't make any decisions without her. So
Hmm.
we had these conversations, and she's like, "Yeah," she was like, I don't want you to I don't want you to go over 20 if you don't have to. It's
Hmm.
different if you really wanted me to stay and we really wanted to do this. But I have a 14-year-old son. I have a almost 12-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old boy. And when your oldest one starts getting close to those high middle school and high school ages,
Yeah.
that's
That's a tough
it's a
time.
it's a tough time, man, and it's a
Yeah, it
big
is.
decision, big decision make. But the other thing was so my body started wearing me out. I'd always been a high PFTer, so
Hmm.
I didn't want to become a turd. You know what I mean? And at the same time,
Right. Right.
so I'd rather get out on my own terms. But like at the same time, um, put my family first. And
Hmm.
there is a time in your career where you are coveted, right? Like a lot of people are coming after you. I
Hmm.
think when you're as a as an enlisted guy, I mean, master sergeant, you're good to go, right? Like people are gunny master sergeant, they're coming after you.
That's right.
Sergeant majors and master guns, I mean, you're not quite as technical as you used to be unless you're in a
Hmm.
very highly technical MOS. Um, for the most part. I mean, there's always an exception to the rule, right? For chief warrant officers, it's very similar. If you're a 2 or 3, maybe a pretty junior 4, not so much looking at 5 where you've been messing with policy the whole time. And
Right.
then, same thing for, the unrestricted side. There is, and there, nobody's ever going to tell you this, but there is a thing is age discrimination. Like that is a thing, right?
Yeah.
So there's a place where
I
people are
believe
going
it.
to start coming after you because of your expertise, but also the longevity in a company that you're going to go to. Because if you stay in for 30 plus years, then they're
Hmm.
probably going to get you for maybe 10 years and you're going to retire for a second time.
Yeah.
But if you stay in for 20 years, they can get you for 20 years, 20
Yep.
plus years.
Yep.
And then you become the continuity in that company. You
Hmm.
start building that out. So whether people are meant to or not, age discrimination is a totally a thing, right? Your
Oh,
marketability is
absolutely.
something to consider.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a big that is huge, and anybody out there listening to this, we're looking at transitioning. This is a, I mean, I think you hit it right on the head. This was a big reason why I also decided to drop my papers and retire. Um, Namely because I wanted to be young enough to start a second chapter of my life, right?
Mhm.
Because there is this sort of notion that once you're 50, or at least like in the federal sector too, like once you're 15 above, maybe 16 above or whatever, yeah, you are going to be looking at retiring. They're only going to have so much time or get so much time out of you. So yeah, I wanted to be able to do like continue working hard for like at least 10 years and then look at potentially slowing down after that, looking at traveling, looking at doing what I really want to do, right? Putting as much away as I can, putting my family first. So I think you hit it right on the head, especially with the kids growing too. Because I mean, I got a 20-year-old myself. I got
Mhm.
a teenager, and it was rough with the 20-year-old because this was like right in the middle of when we were like PCSing. So she really got the brunt of the whole PCS thing, right? Like
Yeah.
middle school, we're PCSing in the middle of her school year or during the summer, right? So they leave the friends behind. And then high school, she's been to probably 2 different high schools, and I kind of felt bad about that. I'm like, I don't want to put my other kids in that scenario, in that situation. So yeah, I mean, you hit it right in the head, man. Putting family first is essential, and that's something folks really need to look at when they're going to be making this huge life decision. Is it worth it to do a couple more PCS moves? Is it worth it to put your family in that situation?
Yeah, I think it's also really important to consider too that
Hmm.
with your youth doing it,
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
and you have to really weigh that family side, because when you do get out, when you do transition, bro, you're cutting your teeth again,
Hmm.
right? Like it doesn't matter how, like
100%,
how
man.
doesn't matter how, like how big your degree is and what these
Yeah.
things are. You've been doing it for 20 years. That's fantastic. You're new to that company, man.
Yep.
You
Yep.
gotta cut your teeth, man. And it's that was, the first couple years, man. That's just that's what it was just cutting my teeth hard. A lot of
Yeah.
traveling, a lot of
Oh, absolutely.
disassociation, saying, I'm no longer chief warrant officer near this guy. I'm now rich. This is what I can do, and
Yeah.
this is how you can help. As cliche as it sounds, it's just the truth.
No, you're absolutely right. I went through the exact same thing. I mean, I went from the Marine side, and I jumped right into the Navy side, which is a completely different animal. I mean,
Mm,
I'm sure you've been on like joint task forces or
mm,
worked with joint folks.
yeah,
The Navy is very technical in what they do, right? I
yeah,
mean, my job was somewhat technical, right? But um, the Navy is very technical, and I work with surface and mine and stuff, and it is something outside of my expertise, but I was exactly like you mentioned. I had to cut my teeth. I had to learn this stuff. Dude, the amount my eyes started to bleed with the amount of SOPs that I was reading in pubs again. I was like, I did not think that I was gonna have to get back into this, but dude, I got back into it, man. I did. I did. So
but you know what? The
what
fact that you read
what's
all
that?
that stuff means that you are
Yeah.
probably more well versed in it, just because out of fear than the guys are that
Uh,
have been sitting in there for a while, because they're doing it out of
yeah.
comfort or force. You're doing
Yeah,
it
I
because,
I agree.
yeah,
I just didn't wanna mess up. That's what it was. It's like, "Oh, I'm getting these questions about
yeah,
this and that." I'm
that's
like,
right.
"I know where to find it now." So I started to become like the go-to guy, right? Like,
That's
"Hey,
right.
ask Vic, he knows where it is." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, it's under here. It's NAVMAC or whatever the Navy regulation is." Um, I mean, I know where to find it. As chief warrant officers, we learn that very
That's right.
quickly. You are the
It's
go-to
something
guy
my
because you know who
grandfather
to
used
ask.
to say. My grandfather
What's
would
that?
always say, "Smartest guy in the room isn't necessarily the guy who has all the answers. It's a
Yeah.
dude that knows where to find them." And that's true to a point. You can't be
Yep,
a
yep.
bumbling idiot, but at the same time, like it is important to have your team, or have your
Yeah.
library. Yeah.
It's about what you know and who you know and
Mhm.
how you can get that answer. So
That's right.
then what happened after that? So you uh you transitioned out, you went from the chief warrant officer side, the Marine side, and then you talked about cutting your teeth again, learning a new skill, a new trade, getting into something else. So where did that take you? What did you have to learn again?
Well, I mean, honestly, I gotta be dead honest with you, brother. I
Yeah.
cheated. Like I straight up cheated, right?
Tell
Because
me. Tell me about it.
I will tell you, like it was the way this worked out, man. It was just amazing. So first and foremost, I had companies talking to me, asking me, and I hadn't heard about SkillBridge, and I said you should look at doing SkillBridge, and I had no idea what it was. So I ended up doing it. And as a matter of fact, I went and worked for one company for
Mhm.
a couple months with. So actually, this is probably important for me to hit before I move on.
Okay.
So for SkillBridge, if somebody's trying to do SkillBridge, one of the things that I did to entice my command, or allow my command really to want to send me to SkillBridge and allow me to do that, was I had talked to the other Chief One Officer Fives, and I had talked to my monitor, and determined, if I were to do this, if they would backfill my position earlier than normal in order to
Okay.
permit me to do this. So
Mhm.
even before I went and talked to my commander about it, the battalion commander, I already had everything in lockstep, right? So I had everything filled out, ready to go. Um, so when I went and talked to my commander about it, I said, "Hey, sir, I'm looking at doing this. Um, and I know I'm like one of 36 in the Marine Corps. So I know there's not very many of us. But I said, I think this would be good." And he said, "Rich," he was like, "Listen, man, and he was super gracious. His name is Carl Slagle. Carl Schlegel was my battalion commander.
Mhm.
Phenomenal dude. Um,
Awesome.
and he was like, Rich, you've given so much of yourself for so long to the Corps, man. This is the least that we can do for you and your family. So he was all about it. He was like, I have one thing, one request though. I was like, I already have your answer, sir. I was like, I've actually already talked to the monitors and the other fives. They're going to backfill me with this person
Mhm.
um, about 3 months before I actually depart for SkillBridge. He was like, "Are you serious?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, absolutely." And he's like, "That's amazing." He was like, "That's exactly what I was just going to ask. Like, is there any chance that they could
Yeah.
pull him forward?" So, and my point to this is try to set your commander up for success when it comes
Right.
to filling the gap. You know, and making sure that you're not leaving them with their butt in the wind. But I
Yeah.
ended up doing this skill bridge. I went to this one company for a couple months, and it was a great opportunity because I was able to kind of weigh the roles, like the different
Mhm.
responsibilities, and really understand different speaking industry.
Right.
Um, and then what I come to find out is there's a lot more out there, right? And um, I announced it where I was going and so on and so forth. And then all of a sudden it was like bam, 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 bam. All these companies were hitting me up. And um, at that point, I started weighing the tangibles and the intangibles. It's really important to
Yeah.
understand the difference between the two and
Right.
to really figure out what's going to fit you and your lifestyle, your family the
Mhm.
best. So, I mean, some of the tangibles would be like pay and vacation time and,
Right.
um,
This is
location.
after you finish the skill bridge.
What's that?
This is after the skill
No,
bridge?
this is during
Or
the skill
this is
bridge.
during? Okay,
Yeah,
okay. So you're
during skill bridge,
okay.
your companies, they'll start, a lot of them will start offering you positions
Okay. Right, right.
during the skill bridge. They'll start offering positions. So you got to start weighing everything, right?
Mhm.
And so you start looking at those tangibles, and some of the intangibles are the ones that really kind of get skipped over, right? Like culture, right? And
Right.
applicability within your own um, social and even your spiritual, like uh, and what you're passionate about, like the things
That's
that
right.
do you really want to do that for the rest of your life? You know what I mean? And your next job
Yeah,
isn't
it's
doesn't have to
huge.
be for the rest of your life, but you don't want
Right.
to just go in there all willy-nilly and just choose some role just for the sake of choosing a role. You should be
Right.
aligning yourself like right out of the gate when you're most marketable.
Yep.
But when I say I cheated was, dude, I work for an IT company and it's called FCN. I work for
Mhm.
FCN Incorporated. Work for an IT company, and I run the Marine Corps team. I speak the same language. I wasn't really culturally pulled out. I get to travel the world and see all these dudes on the bases, and I run these things for them. I get calls from the Muse in the middle of the night. It's fantastic. Like I've never really had to deal with that withdrawal culturally,
Right.
socially, right? So I kind of cheated. I'm still, as cliche as it sounds, still able to help out with the mission, recommend the best stuff. So I kind of got in a different place, but at the same time, I did that that comparison contrast between the tangibles and the intangibles. I
Mhm.
could have went and worked at, VMware or Microsoft or BMW or Disney. I got a Disney, job offer. Like I could have went and done these different places, but one thing that a lot of people don't really consider is there are people out in the civilian world, they would cut off their left hand if they could speak what we can speak for the Marine Corps and for federal, because there's a
Right.
whole these jobs have a whole federal side to them.
They do.
So to take that 20 years and just flush it and just go work for Disney or something like that. Not saying not to do that, just consider it because there's a lot of opportunity in being able to speak from the federal
Oh,
side,
yeah.
the
You know
Marine
the inner
Corps.
workings. Yeah.
We speak a whole
Absolutely.
different language.
Yeah. No, that's a hell of a story, man. And it's not that you cheated, you navigated it correctly, I think. So we can I think we can shift the words around a little bit.
Sure.
But yeah, I completely understand what you mean because I went through and I talked to a couple folks from Booz Allen at one point,
Oh
And
yeah.
I let them know what I did, right? And I dealt a lot with contracts and all that stuff. And I was a contracting officer for a couple projects.
Mm,
And you know, I it wasn't where I wanted to be, but I knew how to speak that language. And when I started speaking that language to them, it's like their ears perked up. They're like, "Oh, this guy knows how to do federal contracts. We can place you in here. We can place you in there." But I thought to myself, I'm like, "Is that really exactly like you mentioned? Is that really where I want my future to be? I've done this for so long, contracts, right? And I'm pretty good at it because I know the inner workings, but I was trying to get out of that whole
right.
contract world, right? It's not something that I particularly fancy, you know, for my future. Do I know about it? Sure. Can I give a class on it? Probably have to brush up on it a little bit, but yeah, it's about what you know. If you can speak that speak, man, you are invaluable to that organization.
That's right, man.
Yeah. So so right now you're doing what is it? IT? Is that your expertise now?
Yeah. So I was a network engineering officer when I was in the Marine Corps.
Hmm.
Um, and I dealt with a lot of collab and like real time streaming services, stuff like this, like
Yeah.
video,
Yeah.
voice, video type stuff, server building, and then I was doing routers and switches and wire, all that stuff, right?
Hmm.
So it made me very valuable when I got out, if you can apply it in the right way.
Yeah.
Um, but now what I do is I'm a solutions architect, but I'm also an account manager. So when I go sit with, say I go sit with the Marines, maybe I go to First Marine Division or Second Marine Division or somebody,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Hey, we're really looking at doing this thing. What's the best thing in industry to get after this?" Because our company is partnered with like 1,000 different partners, right? So I do
Hmm.
anything from Star Shield and Starlink all the way down to the mouse on your desk, right? So it doesn't really matter, software, hardware. It's not a pitch for the company; it's just what I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
So what I have to know is I have to be well versed on all the different types of stuff that we're partnering with and what's out there capability wise, and I have a passion for that. That's like while I was in the Marine Corps, I like testing new things. Now out here, I get to do it from the other side of the fence, and I can
Hmm.
test new things, and I can sit with the division or the MEF or somebody and say, these are the top three things in the industry that I think would fit what your scope is, and this would be the one that I would recommend. Here's the pros and cons of each one. This is what I would recommend. And then at that point, we build it for them. Like we actually work with the vendor, we build it, we design it, and then at that point, if they like it, I send them a market research quote. If they like it, they buy it. If they don't, they don't. We just change puppy to small dog. So it's neat. It allows me to still stay in with the mission, but at the same time, still become educated on what's new in
Hmm.
industry and be able to
Right.
put it in front of the Marines. Marines got tons of stuff to do.
Yeah.
Majority, they don't have time. They're dealing with their teeps. They're going to all
Hmm.
these meetings all the time. It's really hard for them to between the constant pull on their arm and going to rifle range and going to go swim
All the
qual and
requirements. Yeah.
gas chamber and do all these things on top of go to this school, go to this meeting. They can't really take the time to build out, like to research what's best out there in the industry as much as they say they do or want to. The
Hmm.
majority don't have time for that, so that's what they kind of lean on us for, which is really neat.
Yeah. Yeah. They need your expertise. Absolutely, man. I mean, you know, while in uniform, we were being tugged every which way because you have all these annual requirements, you have all these meetings you have to go to. You don't have time. I mean, it would take a lot of time out of your own personal time to do all the research and stuff.
Yeah,
But that's where
yeah,
you come
they don't,
in. You come with that expertise.
yeah. They don't
Awesome.
want to do
And
it when they get out of work, man. They want to go spend time with their family.
oh, absolutely, man.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So tell me about your SkillBridge journey. Okay, so how long
sure.
was your actual SkillBridge? Was it like a couple months? You know, I
Yeah.
think the max is like 6 months. Tell me about
Yeah,
that.
so I did the corporate fellowship program
Okay.
through hiring our heroes.
Okay.
So what a lot of people don't realize is there's like 2,000 different programs under SkillBridge alone.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
SkillBridge is like this massive umbrella, and then underneath there, there's all these different types of programs that are underneath there. And I did hiring our heroes, and then underneath that, there was a corporate fellowship program. And what that allowed me to do was kind of um, I could either pick a company before I went into it that I really wanted to work with, or I could go in there. These guys, they help you kind of navigate with your resume and all these types of things, how to they coach you on how to do interviews,
That's
which
right.
was
That's right.
which was a great skill set. And really what it came down to was, um, I had already had a company picked out, but everybody else, they were going through, and they would take their resume and they would slam it out there. It would go to all of these guys for their particular region. So when
Yep.
you do a skill bridge, specifically when you did the corporate fellowship program, they had some, like one was here in Tampa. They had another one in, I think it was in Virginia. It was kind of like peppered throughout the
Right.
Comas. And that's kind of like your home, but it was completely remote, right? So I did it from Camp Lejeune, but because I was moving to Florida when I retired, I did it in Tampa. I know it's
Okay.
weird. So anyways, neither here nor there. What they do is they send it out, and the way that it works is say there's like 5 companies, right? So you pick your top 5 companies that you want to go work with. You're like, I really want to work with these companies. They reached out to me, and then what happens is those companies will rate you as well, right? So say they chalk it down to 3, and say it was like Microsoft, um, we'll say FCN, we'll say Verizon, right? Or something like that. If Microsoft was my number 1 and they chose me as their number 1, they had chose me, then
Mm-hmm.
I automatically align to that company, and that's who I do my corporate fellowship with. But say
Okay.
Microsoft didn't like me and they decided not to choose me, it'd be
Yep.
my next one. Say it was FCN, so it would fall to the next one. And if
Okay.
FCN said they wanted me, then boom, we're aligned, and that's who I do my corporate fellowship with.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how that normally goes down. And then at about so when I started my my corporate fellowship program, everything had to be in by October. There's numerous ones a year. There's like 3 a year, I think 3 or 4 a year.
Yeah.
Um, Mine, I had to have everything in by October, and then all of the end of October, because all of the resumes were sent out for 30 days, and
Mm-hmm.
by 1 December you had to be aligned to a company, because on 1 January is when I started my
Right.
fellowship program. And so the beginning of January through um, the 30th or 31st of March. Yeah, 31st of March. So, which this is why I'm saying it just worked out so amazing, because from October, I knew that I was doing it. And then in December, I knew who I was aligned to.
Mm-hmm.
And in January, I did it until the 31st of March. And then April 1st, the very next day, was my retirement ceremony.
Man, that you hit every milestone on that, man. That's like it worked out perfect.
It did. And
That's
so I
good.
have calculators for everything. Like I got spreadsheets for spreadsheets, man. I have to be organized, not because I'm crazy, but because
You
I
gotta
will
be,
lose
man.
my mind. Yeah, I have to make sure that everything lines up just right. Um, it's for the sake of my family, for the sake of,
Yeah.
you know, for folks
You
I
got to
work
go
with
into it
as well.
prepared, man. I mean,
Mhm.
if there's one thing that I'm sure you can test this. If there's one thing the Marine Corps has taught me is, a backwards plan. And make sure that everything is covered. All bases are covered because if things can fail, they most likely will fail. Right.
Murphy's
So
got a boat, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, man. So I mean, I live by my calendar. I mean, right now I use my Google Calendar, and the thing looks like Skittles, right? It's like all over the
Mhm.
place with everybody in the family has their own color that I assign to, and I
I
need to
love
know when
that,
the
man.
kids have baseball practice. I need to know when we have family night. I even put like, and I don't know if you do this, but I put like my free time on there. I specifically put family time. I specifically put time to myself, read time or wake up time, just so I don't overstep those boundaries. But yeah,
Oh,
I need to have that scheduled, man, or else it does not function up here.
oh, sure. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you actually do a better job than me, and because I don't do the scheduled free time. Here's the thing: people ask me all the time, they're like, "Dude, what's your
Yeah.
hobbies?" And
Yeah.
like, my hobbies that I had before kids, they don't really exist anymore. My
Mm.
family is my hobby. So like when I
Yep.
have free
Yep.
time, it all goes to them. If I can find anything in between, great.
Yeah.
But that's such a small, fleeting time that I need to make
Mhm.
sure that I'm just, because my 14-year-old, he loves spending time with me still, but for the most part, that kid is autopilot. But my 5-year-old,
Yeah.
nay. That kid he's all over me like a fat kid on birthday cake. And I love it, man. I love that kid. He's fantastic. But
Yeah.
what I wanted to mention something while I was thinking about it though, too.
Sure.
And
Yeah. What you
it's
got?
making sure that I've watched a lot of guys fall into this where they were paying for different resources.
Yeah. Talk about it,
Nobody
man.
should be paying for anything. You don't need to pay for a thing, man. There's so many different organizations out there
As far as
that'll,
SkillBridge, you mean?
yeah, well, just in
Okay.
general, like not even
Okay.
just SkillBridge. Like, so for instance, like I had hiring our heroes was for my SkillBridge, but there was another company I used even before I started with SkillBridge called Hire Heroes USA.
That's
They
right.
helped me
Yep.
build my resume for free. They aligned me
Yep.
with a mentor and everything, and he really kind of helped me out with that. And my resume, I've been helping you and I talked about this. I help a lot of dudes transition from full bird kernels on down, and
hmm
I send them my resume. I send them the calculators I have. I'll send them my notes that I took from retirement seminar. I'll share, like we'll do a WebEx or some type of, Teams or Zoom or what have you.
Right.
And I'll show them, hey, look, man, I'll show them the stuff. I'll give them like the stuff off my VA, right? Like, hey,
hmm
look, man, the stuff that I thought that I was going to get a ton for, I didn't. I got a little for. And the stuff that I thought I'd get a little for, I got a ton for, which is crazy, right? To
hmm
really think about. So really how to kind of navigate that, how to navigate VA math, because it's wonky, right?
It is a different kind of math. It is. It
It
is.
is a different kind of math. So just if you're going to pay for something, you're not looking in the right places. You shouldn't be paying for somebody to help you with a resume. You shouldn't be paying anybody for calculators or any type of step-by-step processes and all that stuff.
Yeah, there are way too many resources out there
Yeah,
when it comes to that.
there are.
I like that you brought that up, man, because a while back I made a video about VA disability claims and how I had already had my disability claim completed. I just happened to reach out, or I had a company reach out to me at some point, uh, actually via LinkedIn, and then I started emailing them back and forth, just kind of playing along, seeing what they would charge. And I said, "Hey, look, I'm at 10%. How much will it cost me to get to 100%?" And they threw out a number. They're like, "Oh, we'll charge you 17 grand to do that." 17 grand, yeah, to do my paperwork, to basically upload it to whatever the system, right? And that's huge. Nobody should be paying for that, right? And these are things we call these loan sharks, right? I'm sure you've heard the term loan
Oh, yeah.
sharks, the ones who charge you for something that should be done, for free through the DAV, through the VFW, things like that. But too many
That's right.
people pay for that stuff because they just don't know any better. That's a
right.
big reason why we have shows like this and put
Yes.
information out there. Like, hey,
Yes.
look, ask around, get a hold of somebody who's already been there and done that, and they can guide you there, right? You shouldn't be paying for that stuff.
Yeah.
And I like that you brought up Hire Heroes USA too, because they're the ones that actually helped me out with my resume as well. So big shout out to Hire Heroes USA.
Yeah.
And we've had a couple of the folks from Hire Heroes USA on this show. So big
great.
shout out to Hire Heroes, USA.
Yeah, they
Awesome.
helped me out, and I've always pointed people to them because they're fantastic. So
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So tell me about, I know we talked a little bit about your, your family time. Let's talk about work-life balance. Okay. I know. Let's talk about it, how it shifted, maybe how it was in the Marine Corps while you were active, and how maybe that differs to today.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's a really fair thing. So if you
Mhm.
looked at my LinkedIn, you looked at my Facebook, you'll notice that I travel a pretty good deal. I travel about a week a month. Sometimes I'll have to do 2 weeks a month. It just depends. It's just the nature of my job. But the difference is I say I have to. I don't really have to, right? The
Mhm.
job, my job, they give me so much flexibility that that when I'm going places, I'm electing to go there. Nobody's telling me to go
Right.
anywhere. The only time
Right.
they've said we would really like it for you to come here is for our holiday luncheon that we have in Reston, Virginia in December, which happens once a year. But other than that, It's all self-inflicted. Um, I think that the other thing is, and a lot of people been, they look for that. I'm at home. This is where I work from. I work from home.
That's
And
awesome.
I think
Yeah.
something that you have to really consider is you people are different. You're unique, right? So some people prefer to be in an office, and some people prefer to be at home. And some people just work better that way. Some people, it just really depends on what your strengths and weaknesses are. I cannot tell you that you're going to work better from home, and cannot tell you that you're going to work better in an office. You have to figure that out for yourself. Do you need a team to push you?
Hmm.
Right? Like, are you self-motivated, or do you actually need to be pushed? You got to be honest with yourself, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're
Yeah.
not, and you suck, and you get really distracted very easy, and it's really easy to do with the critters and my wife and life.
Hmm. Hmm.
If you can't manage very well, you're gonna get fired, right? Like, it just is what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
But if you're going to the office all the time, it's not like in the Marine Corps anymore, or in the services where you're like, and if you're punching clocks, man, like, you can't just be like, hey guys, I got to go get my tires changed. I'll see you guys in a little while. Like, bro, you're gonna come
Yeah.
back to an empty desk.
Yeah. I'm gonna
So
go PT here.
that's right, man. It's not a thing, right? So
No, no, it's not.
that was one of the things I had to consider for, like, Disney. Disney has straight up their 30-minute lunch break, right? Like,
Hmm.
boom, boom, each time, right? Like, there's not a lot of that flexibility, but from here I can kind of do what I need to do. I will tell you this, um, from a family work-life balance. If the type of job that I have, it's been really great, because if I want to, a lot of guys know on, like, Tuesday mornings, I give that to my wife, and we go out for breakfast. Like, I go and date my wife on Tuesday mornings. I take her out to breakfast. If I'm, obviously, if I'm in town, right?
Hmm.
The other thing is, say, like, my kids are out of school and I'm working, and my son, and, like, for lunch, we just go downstairs, we go to the pool, we'll swim, we'll cook out some stuff on the grill, and I come back upstairs, I go to work. It's amazing. Um, but at the same time, it can get a little bit much when your wife or your kids really need you for something, and you're in the middle of a very, very important meeting.
Right.
And
Yeah. I
and
can.
there's a respect that has to be established, an understanding that has to be established. And
Hmm.
when we first started, we implemented this light rule. I had this little thing on my desk. I would tap it, and I had a little red light outside the door of my room. And if that red light
Okay.
was on,
Yeah.
do not touch my
Yeah.
door, right? Like, you need to
Yeah.
leave me be, right? It got to a point to where we didn't really need that anymore. So I got rid of that. So if they come in, um, and they're talking to me, I'm in a meeting, man, I'll mute that bad boy, and I'll throw my camera off real fast, and I'll put my little 5-year-old up on my lap, man. He can sit here
Right.
with me, and
Yeah. Just hang out.
it's
Yeah. I like
amazing,
that.
because I'm here more. I'm here a
Yeah.
lot
You're
more.
present.
I'm not gone for 3 to 6 months on deployment. I'm not gone for 30 days. If I'm traveling, I travel 3, 4, max 5 days out of a week, and I'm back
Hmm.
home. I don't miss weekends, let's be honest with you. This is the best part of it, because people are like, Rich, I could show it to you right now. Rich,
Yeah.
they're like, Rich, how do you make your schedule, your calendar, your travel calendar for the whole year? And I'm like, easy, because I use my kids' school calendar in August, and I build it for the next year off of their school calendar to make sure that I am present for my kids.
Very
And
nice.
that
Yeah.
actually helps when I'm talking to other partners, or I'm looking at other events, and so customers are calling me, or like, hey, can you come here during this time? No, man, I'm not available during that time. I don't need to tell them why, right? It's because my
Right.
son's he's having his Christmas play. You know what I mean? I'm going to be there for my kid's soccer game, or my kid's Christmas play, or whatever that is.
Yeah.
So my work-life balance, my entire thing, my whole work schedule is built around my kid's calendar, whole thing, so I can be
And
more
that
present.
really is what matters, huh? That really is what
Yeah.
matters after you get out. I mean, that's a big reason why I decided to to put my papers down too and retire. It is about not just work, because work is going to come, work is going to go,
Mhm.
but it's about the memories you make with your family.
That's
It's
right,
about
man.
how present you are as a father,
Come on.
as a parent. That's really what matters, because your kids are going to grow up. They're going to remember these things. Dad was always there for me. Mom was always there for me.
Yeah,
They're also going to remember if you were a workaholic and you were never around. So
that's right. And,
yeah,
and that's man, you were nailing it, dude. Absolutely. And it's
that's
such a
why.
fleeting season.
That's exactly why. So sometimes when we have to push back the times for this podcast, for this live stream, normally we go at 9 a.m. Pacific time.
Mm.
Uh, Sometimes we have to push it back to 1 p.m. Pacific time because I'm at my kid's baseball game.
Yeah.
I make it a point, the whole family shows up. Even my 20-year-old, I'm like, hey, you gonna go support your bro today or what? And she's like, oh, okay, whatever. Let's go. She's being a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
But we're there to support, no matter what the event is. You got an award, we're going to be there.
I love
You
that.
have, yeah, and it's just a matter of making time for it, because your kids are going to remember that.
That's right.
I mean,
That's right.
yeah.
Absolutely. You make time for you if something was really important to you
Hmm.
or something you really want to do, you better believe that you would find a way to make that thing happen. How's that any different than, celebrating your kids or your wife,
Absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely. And,
I
I'm
think
glad
that,
you brought up the whole date your wife thing too. Because I know that's something I do usually Fridays. We'll, every other Friday or so, we'll
oh, great.
go out to
Yeah.
breakfast and stuff like that. And you've been married, what, 20 years?
Yeah. This next May will be 20 years married. And this month was 26 years together. Yeah. That's
All right, give
crazy.
me give me your best piece of marriage advice, man. What do you got?
Um,
Like, I hate to put you on the spot, but I'm like,
no, no,
if
you really,
you seem like you got it together, man.
I'm gonna. I mean, I know probably a lot of these people that are gonna listen to me, they're probably gonna tune me out as soon as I say this, if they don't have a faith, right? Like if they don't. But
Yeah.
if putting God in the middle of your relationship first,
Hmm.
those foundations, those things are extremely important, and to understand that it's not about you. Like if you're trying to do something to get something, you're doing it the
Yeah.
wrong way. You need to make love to your wife's heart first
Hmm.
before you can expect anything else to come in return. So if you put, it's just like anything, man. Like if you put somebody else first, it's like when we were as leaders in the Marine Corps, right? Like as leaders in the Marine Corps, it's exactly the same. As leaders in the Marine Corps, if you are taking care of your troops, like you're lifting them up, you actually care about them, you're talking to them, you do things like simple things like I was taught over time, like you remember their wives' names, their brothers or sisters, maybe their mom and dad, where they're from, and
Hmm.
you just remember this. Those are, it seems like such a
Small
big, but it's
things.
really it's such a small thing, but it really goes a long way. But if you're lifting them up, you care about them personally and professionally, they're going to lift you up, and then and over time, like really honestly, you're going to be successful because they made you successful. They were looking out for you, right?
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
there's a good balance there. I mean, you got to have your drive, your initiative, your intelligence, your work ethic, but it's a team thing. It's no different with your family. It's a team thing. If you're putting them first spiritually and emotionally, the two number one most priority thing, like the best things you can give somebody, and you can't get it back, right? So is prayer and time. Those are your two most precious resources, because you'll never get a chance to pray for that person in that point ever again at that point in time, and
Hmm.
you'll never get that moment back again. Once that time is gone, that second, that minute, that hour is gone, you'll never get it back. So if you're by spending time with, like me having the honor to spend time with you, Vic, I mean, that's this, we'll never get this back. You only have a finite amount of time. And if you're able to take that time and spend it with your wife, and don't just date your wife, date your kids. I did it this morning with my son. I took him out for donuts this morning in the car. You know what I mean? Like we burned some rubber and we went and got some donuts. We came back. But date your kids too. And it's really important to do that. I had a master sergeant teach me that when I was a staff sergeant, and that stuck with me. And the dating your kids part, because I never really considered it. The dating your wife thing, we know that because we want to stay married, right? Like we
Right,
want to
right.
get married. But I think that's it, man. Like I think if you're trying to do something quid pro quo, you're gonna come up in conflict or empty-handed. One of those two ways, right? But
Right.
if you're doing it for the right reasons and you're really putting them first, that's when you're really gonna thrive.
Yeah, it's definitely got to be a team effort, man. I've been married for 18 years myself,
That's
so
great.
I know exactly what you mean. Like, hey, look, there are going to be disagreements, there are going to be differing opinions on things, but at the end of the day, hey, you come together because for the common good of the family,
Yeah.
for just to make sure that your family can function as a family. You got kids, you got differing schedules, it's going to be crazy. Sometimes it's going to be a mess, but at the end of the day, you come together, you you eat together, you hang out
Yeah.
together, you go out. We're going to the movies later on today as a family. So maybe not the best movie. I like Gladiator. We're going to go watch Gladiator.
Let's go.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that, right? But and my kid, I sat there. We do marathons together before we go see another movie, right? Hey, look, let's go with this coming Gladiator movie. I asked my
Quality
kids, "Hey,
time.
you guys you want to watch the original one, so that way we can kind of catch
Point of
up and see
reference,
what
man.
this next one's going to be on."
That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Gotta
So
have that
we
reference.
just exactly got to have that reference. So I mean, it's fun to do it as a family too, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we have marathons, Home Alone
Well,
marathons, things like that.
that's
Yeah,
what we were just doing before we started this. Is
yeah.
we were watching Home Alone, and then we started the Home Alone Lost in New York or whatever. And I was like, hey guys, I got
Right
to go
on.
upstairs and do this podcast. I'll be back, man. And then but
Yeah,
yeah, that's that quality time thing. But
it
ultimately,
is.
what it
It
comes
is.
down to is just it's respect, right?
Yeah.
It's just respect for somebody else's time, respect for even for your kids. You want them
Hmm.
to be respectful for you. Like I've people mess with me all the time. Are like, dude, why do you call me sir? I'm like, I call everybody sir. I even call my son sir because I want him to call everybody else sir, right?
Hmm.
So it's just it's a respect thing.
Yeah, you're setting the precedence. You're setting that example, right? They're going to see that.
You know?
If I treat people like crap, my kid's probably going to treat people like crap because they're
That's right.
exposed to that.
So there's
I can.
my grandfather used to say there's two different types of people in this world.
Mhm.
And so my grandfather's an old World War II Korean War vet. Dude was harder than woodpecker lips, right? Like dude was just a monster.
Yeah.
And but he was very wise, very Southern gentleman, very wise the way that he would speak. And one of the things he would say, there's two people in this world, two types of people: circle makers and circle breakers. So, for instance, my dad was not there, right? My mom was really not there.
Yeah.
And I knew long ago that I did not want to repeat that chaotic circle, right? And because people will stick into that circle, they'll repeat the chaos of their parents and the environments of which they've been subjected to. They will repeat that chaos, or they break out and they become successful and they make other people successful, and they call us
That's right.
circle breaker, right? And my grandfather referred to me. He was like, "Rich, your background, like but you were set up for failure." And that's when he told me that. And he called me circle breaker until 2019 when he passed away. He was like, "There's my circle breaker," and he just my point is if your father, your mother missed the mark, or that environment, that system, whatever that you were subjected to missed the mark,
Hmm.
get it back on paper, move it back on paper, and do that through the examples of somebody else or your experiences. You know what's wrong, do it the right way. You know what's right, do it the right way. And so that's what I aim to be, like every night. Like there was this book I used to read to my son. I had a really hard time reading this book. It was like some monsters, and it's this monster dad and like this little kid, and he would talk about all the things that he would do. He was taking like New York, and he was doing all these things. He was, and at the end of the book, it said, "These are the things that I will do these things for you and more, because that's what my dad did for me." I couldn't read that page for a long time. There was a lot of hurt in that thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
knew that I was doing this because I knew one, I love my children, but two, I wanted to make sure that I was able to give them what I didn't have the right way, right? And be there for them. And over time, I mean, I got past all that stuff. Jesus took all that stuff away from me. But like the thing is um, that it, we always talk about as Marines leaving things better in the way we found them.
That's right.
It's the same way with your family. It's no different.
Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts about challenging your kids? Like if I'll give you some background.
Go for it.
My kids will often ask me, how do I do this? And I tell them, I don't want to tell you. I want to see you figure it out first
Yeah.
and see what you do. And they get frustrated and, they get angry. But in my mind, I'm thinking, I want to see what they do first. And then we'll go from there and I'll correct it if it needs to be corrected.
Yeah.
How do you work with that? Do you challenge your kids at all?
I do. And I think that's brilliant that you bring that up, because critical thinking is such a massive portion of our society that has been stripped away because everything's is easily accessible here. Right. So, and unfortunately, if I hear my kids say, well, I saw it on the internet, we rewind for a moment and then we really drill down a lot deeper, right? Because just because it's there doesn't mean it's correct. And so the critical thinking piece is specifically what you're talking about, and problem solving and challenging your children. I think that's absolutely imperative, because that's the thing that, we've really struggled with. You hear the term helicopter parent, and you hear the term, what I will say is, yes, I do pretty much something very similar to what you do. So for instance, if it's something as trivial as their homework, I will do the same thing. And I'll say, show me how you were taught, show me how you know how to do it. And I let them do it. And then we assess if it's correct or not, and if there's another way to do it. But yeah, I don't want to just give them the answer, because then at that point they become dependent.
That's right.
Those dependencies break us down as silly as it may sound. It will break down. That's what's breaking down the entire society, because they expect instant access to things, and they aren't willing to work for it. It's like an entitlement. Like, I'm doing it, I deserve to have this thing. No, you don't.
No. So you deserve to work for that.
That's correct.
Yeah,
that's right.
Just have the answer.
It's the same thing with like when there's sports. Like, my daughter's a gymnast, my son plays soccer, my youngest son plays soccer as well. And they're like, wow, man, my oldest son had the hardest time. My youngest son's a brute. Like, that kid is a machine. Like, he is like the highest scoring dude. He's like a monster. He'll mow people down just to get that ball. But like my oldest son, he had a really hard time because he's just not naturally gifted when it comes, like, running. He's super fast, but when it comes to soccer and those skill sets, he's not naturally gifted with those things. And he's like, oh, they won't play me. I'm like, then you need to practice more.
Yeah, you got to.
Like, I'm not going to coddle you, dude. Like, you want it, instead of going and playing video games or talking to your friends or doing whatever it is that you're doing, you need to go out there and hit that stuff in the net. You need to go out there and dribble. Like, you need to practice. Like, things aren't just going to be given to you all the time. The way I explain it to him is it's biblical in nature. We talk about Abraham, right? And Abraham brought his son to the mount. And right before Abraham was going to strike him, the Lord brought the ram in the bush, right? And a lot of people live for the ram in the bush. A lot of people believe that, well, I'm just going to keep going down this track, and then things just going to appear, and life's going to get easier. Bro, that's not how that works. If it does, that's great. I celebrate that ram in the bush for you, dude. But like, you need to work hard for the things that you want, and stop blaming everybody else for your problems if you're not willing to put the blood and the sweat and the tears into it, bro.
Yeah, that's one thing I also realized about like kids these days. I mean, namely my kids, right? I challenge them constantly. I'm not going to give you the answer. Don't just take what you see on YouTube or whatever you watch online, Instagram, TikTok, at face value. You need to actually do the research and make sure that it is correct. Yeah, so I think that critical thinking skills, I think, is huge, especially
Yeah.
with raising kids. Same thing with leading Marines, right? I've had some knucklehead junior Marines who just, it was one of these things like, hey, this PFC don't know, or this landscaper don't know. Well, I need this landscaper to go send a message to Garcia and figure this crap out, because I'm not just going to let you off with I don't know. You got pubs, you got fellow Marines you can ask. You need to figure this stuff out, right? And I think the whole figure it out thing is what we're losing these days, because the folks they want the easy answer, right? I
That's
mean,
right.
how easy is it to go to YouTube or to Google? I mean, these are tools. We can use them as tools, right? I mean, I've
Yeah.
used my share of YouTube to figure out how to
Oh
fix a
yeah.
fence or whatever,
Yeah, man.
and it's there as a tool. But I'm not just going to say, "Hey, I don't know how to do it, so I'm not going to do any effort in figuring this out. I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah.
just going to go back to my room now and mope."
Yeah.
There's too much of that. There's too much of that right now, I think.
There is, man. I think another thing is too is teaching people how to steward their resources,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
I teach my son and my daughter when it comes to the critical thinking side, and it's absolutely imperative for the adult side too, especially guys that are transitioning, getting out,
Right.
stewarding their resources the right way when it comes to doing that. I'll hit on that in a moment, but like my kids, like you'll see they'll earn money and stuff, and then they're like, well, why can't I get this thing? You don't have enough, dude. Like it's just how that works. And
Yeah.
well, I really want this. You need to save your stinking money. You need to figure this out. I'm not doing it for you. I'm not buying it for you. If you really want it enough, you'll figure out a way.
Yeah. You'll figure out a way. Yep.
You'll figure out a way. That's right.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So like we talked about starting how to, brainstorm and come up with your own ideas for how to make money. Like I don't care if you go around clean people's trash cans for them, like, and bring them up for them and stuff. Like, figure it out,
Yep.
dude.
Yeah.
You know,
I agree. I agree.
where there's a will, there's a way. This is the same thing when guys are getting out of the military. I think I'll see a lot of folks and they're like, well, I really want to. They want to live this filet mignon flavored life on a hot dog flavored budget. You know what I mean?
Well, they're gonna have to work for it.
That's true, man. But the thing is they don't. There's some spreadsheets that you can make and figure out. So say like somebody's getting out of the Marine Corps and they want to go live in like Colorado, or they want to go live in like Maine or Florida. I live in Florida now.
Yeah.
Dude, you can go online and you can figure out like all like what the cost of living looks like down there when
That's
it comes
right.
to like power bills and waste and your property tax, if you're going to have it. I mean, down here, if you're 100%, you don't have a property tax. Or if you're a
That's
heart
right.
recipient or something, you don't have a property tax, which is nice. You got to look at like the sales taxes down here. You got to look at like all that jazz.
Yeah.
You can figure all that stuff out. State tax, like down here, there's no state tax. I mean, so there, you have to look at all these things, and then you have to determine what you're comfortable making, right? In order to maintain the lifestyle that you're in the Marine Corps or greater than. You never want
That's
to
right.
go underneath, right? And then kind of line that stuff up. But they don't, they're like, well, I'll make this much a year because it sounds great, but they don't do a real good job in budgeting. So they don't
Yeah.
steward their resources really well. So it
Right.
sounds like the same thing I'm having conversations with my kids is the same type of conversations that you have with full grown adults. Like, hey, man,
It is.
you
It
have
really
got to
is.
do the research, man. You've got to do the research yourself and figure this out. I can give you some advice, but you need to do the research in order to steward your resources in order to be successful when you do move.
No, that absolutely right, man. You got, and that's probably the biggest thing. Kind of talking about transitioning from military to civilian. One of the biggest things is, at least for me, I retired out of Marine Corps Air Station Miramar,
Yeah.
and the big thing was, where the hell are we going to live next? And
Mhm.
like you are right now, I grew up in Central Florida, I'm from Orlando, Florida
That's
myself.
where I live.
Yeah. 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 So I'm from there. My parents still live there. All my family still lives out
Dude,
there.
I didn't know that. That's crazy. Mi
Yeah.
casa
Yeah.
es
Right.
tu casa. You come over here, you can stay with
Oh,
us.
absolutely. I'll be over there for New Year's, man.
Oh, that's great, dude. I'd
New
love to
Year's.
see you.
Yeah. Yeah. I just bought some tickets for the entire family. Not for very long, but just to go over there and hang out. Right.
Yeah.
But see some family and all that. But yeah. And we were thinking about, like, where are we going to live next? What are we going to do next? Right.
Mhm.
And it was a big decision. And it was one that of course, you have to have the family involved. And I sat down with my wife and I told her, hey, look, the plan was always retire at 20 years, right? I did 20 years in a couple months. And the plan was always, hey, look, this is me telling my wife, you followed me around for the last 20 years.
Yes.
We got married my second year in the Marine Corps. So you followed me around for the last 18 years that I was active duty. Now it's my turn to follow you around wherever your career takes you. So
Yeah.
her career had her here. She had a good career. She has a good career here in San Diego. So we remained put here. We set some roots down here, with the intent that maybe in the future, we find out maybe how we can shift that back to Florida.
Okay.
And that's really where my heart lies, because that's where all my family is, in
Oh,
Florida.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So that it was the biggest thing. And that's something that I see a lot online. It's like, where am I going to live next? How do I figure this out? And I think you hit it on the head. You need to, like, do the research and look at what you're potentially going to be bringing in. I mean, if the intent is to live off of retirement and VA disability, that's all fine. But, can you make your life happen with a family potentially living somewhere like in Florida, living somewhere in San Diego, or anywhere really? Find out what you're going to be making, and just kind of start implementing how much is rent or mortgage going to cost, how much is everything going to be all together, just
Yeah.
to live your life, groceries and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's where people kind of jump the gun to, like, oh, either they move out there, like I know folks who stayed here in San Diego, but they're living like 10 to a house because they can't make it happen. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's not really life, man. You don't want to be in that position. So
Yeah.
yeah, you really got to do the research before you actually get out. But I think you hit on the head. You gotta look at everything, how much everything is going to cost, and make sure that you are living a good life with your family.
Yeah. That's part of those tangibles, right? When you're weighing the
Yeah,
type of job that
absolutely.
you're looking at, right? So those benefits and things of that nature. I think that's important. A lot of people talk about, like, should I take the health benefits, for this
Hmm.
particular job?
Yeah.
Since I'm retiring, if you're separating, yeah, you're going to need them unless you're medically, like being medically retired. But like, yeah, you're going to need
Hmm.
those health benefits. You got to weigh them out, man. Like some
Yeah.
some guys I know, they'll do both. They'll do like both the health benefits from TRICARE, Prime or Select or whatever, and then they'll do it also from their company because it's really good from their company. Just
Yeah.
you got to weigh those things out. Some people, when they're getting a new job, they get stock options. They'll give them stock
Hmm.
as a bonus getting in. Some will give them a signing bonus. Um, there was one that was like, hey, if you just come over and work with us, we'll give you 75K. I'm like, that's cool, but I need to look further down the line than that immediate
Exactly.
thing that's going to hit me in the nose, because that
Yeah.
75K is going to be gone so fast. And
Yeah. We'll give you 75K, but your life is going to be crap after that.
yes,
So
it's
you
true,
got to think
man.
about that ahead of time.
That's right. They like hold that thing over you. Like, we gave you this.
Exactly.
So why aren't you
Exactly. Yep.
happy? I'm like, come
Yep.
on, man. It's crazy. But
Oh
that's
man.
totally a thing, man. No, that's
Yeah.
I get it, man. Like the trying to figure out the whole where you're gonna live. And I think that's cool that you guys might be coming back over here, because that means get a chance to hang out with you. That'd be good. I have the picture that you painted me
Yeah.
is
Yeah. Yeah.
is
That's right.
downstairs, and I get so many people to talk to me about that thing. It's so cool.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I don't share that too much around the podcast, and that's cool that you brought it up too, because that was kind of just some background, that was something, like, I never really came out as an artist, right? It was always like something I did as a way to de-stress, and then after I kind of retired, or let me back it up a little bit. I applied to the combat art position, and my portfolio did not get selected for it. And that was what was going to take me past 20 years. If I got selected for that, it
Oh,
would take me to 21 years. I didn't get selected for it, and it would have been a cool position. Like they just attach you, they remove you from your MOS. They give you a secondary MOS, which is combat artist, I guess.
I
You
didn't
get
know that was a
attached
thing,
to.
man.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely a thing. I'm friends with these two majors that are currently doing it right now. They You fall under the Marine Corps Historical Division, which is where the Marine Corps Museum lies, and they attach you to different units, and you go TAD to like units that go to Norway for training,
Yeah.
uh, and then you basically sit there and you draw them or you paint them doing their exercises,
What?
and that goes into the National Archive. So everything you paint, you draw goes into the National Archives. I thought that was amazing, dude. So I
Yeah.
applied for that. Unfortunately, my portfolio didn't get selected. So I was like, you know what?
That
Let's punch
blows my
out.
mind because your stuff
Yeah.
is amazing. I show
You
people
know, I
and I'm like,
appreciate it, man.
you can see it from far away. And I'm like, no, walk up close to it. And they see the lines and they're like, how do you do that? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I have no
That's the one I have back here, right there. You can see it.
idea.
That's PFC Easton right there, and Battle of Okinawa back here. But
Yeah.
up close, you can't tell what it is. You gotta, you walk back, and you can make out the whole picture.
Yeah.
So,
It's the
but
coolest.
lucky enough, if being that I didn't do that whole combat artist thing, I've been able to do like different art shows, and I've been to like in New York City, going to another art show in April in Washington D.C. So displaying a couple of my pieces out there. So yeah, I appreciate it, man. That was an honor to make that for you, man.
Dude.
It's so fun to do these things, man. It really is. I've since stopped doing them for a moment. It's a lot of it is putting the paper up on the wall, stepping back, and then getting closer, kind of putting more blotters on there. But it really does take a toll on the shoulder, and I have a little bit of a shoulder thing going on. So it's
Oh,
like,
wow.
all right, yeah. So I had to stop it for a little bit. I might get back into it, but yeah, man, it's so fun to do, man. Art is such a big de-stressor,
It's
and
amazing.
yeah, for anybody going
It's
through
such
like
a great
stress and stuff like that,
conversational piece too.
yeah,
When people come into my home and they see it and they're like, dude, that's the coolest thing. And
that's
yeah,
awesome.
'cause it
That's
has
awesome,
obviously
man.
has a story associated. So I really appreciate that, man. You've painted yourself into my home. So I appreciate that. It's
Hell yeah,
great.
man. Heck yeah.
Great.
So awesome, man. So Rich, man, I don't want to take up too much of your time here. So, are there any other like parting words, some words of wisdom to folks out there looking to transition from military to civilian life to become successful, to become a success like you have now working for your company?
No, yeah, thank you, man. I think the number one thing is I would say I'm a pretty loyal dude. Um, was loyal in Marine Corps, loyal in the Marines. Just know that when you are really thinking about getting out, um,
Hmm.
that you did service for a reason, and this next chapter of your life is not about it's not about service. It's a for necessarily the nation, or it's not about service. Like you don't have somebody's got you under their thumb. You take care of your family. You take care of you take care of your family, and you live your best life. And if you start off in that one job and you really don't like that job, find another place, because life is way too short for you to be miserable. Okay? You don't need to be in the cold rain and the muck, spiritually and emotionally, when it comes to and destroying your marriage because of uh, because of a fear-based decision that you need stability, versus making sure that you are, I don't want to say happy, but that your your family is content and well provided for, and that you're actually able to enjoy your life. You put your life on the line. Now it's time for you to enjoy it, man. And the guys that if you lost anybody while you were in the service, they wouldn't want you to be miserable. They'd want you living your best life, because that's how you honor them. Like, you honor those dudes that we lost by living your best life and honoring them, and by honoring your family. Okay. And just living your best life. So I would say lean on the people that you have around you. Understand that your job transition started yesterday. Like your LinkedIn accounts and, your relationships, huge, 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 huge thing. Your resume and all that stuff. Like that should have started yesterday. If you haven't done it already, you need to do it. And if you don't know where to start, that's why you have your group of folks around you, such as Vic and his crew, and even myself or anybody else that Vic thinks that's probably best. Like, reach out to him, and that's how we take care of each other. Is what we're supposed to do. So, God bless you, and I pray nothing but
Dude,
success
Rich,
for all you guys.
that is awesome, man. I appreciate those parting words, dude, and it has been an honor to have you on here and have you share your story with the world. We really
Thanks.
appreciate you.
Thank you, brother. God bless you. Thank you so much, Vic.
God bless, man. Thank you very much.
Take it easy. Semper Fi.